Part 1, The Arrival of the Human. Commander Thalos stood at attention within the grand crystal chamber of Zenthra's imperial palace. Towering spires of translucent crystal soared above him, refracting light into a spectrum of colors that danced across the polished floor. As third commander of the Emperor's elite guard, he had witnessed countless ceremonies and challenges within these hallowed walls. Yet today felt different. Today marked the arrival of a human warrior who dared to confront their might. Can you believe it? General Varek sneered beside him, his voice dripping with disdain. A human? What do they think they can achieve here? They'll cower before our champions. Thalos remained stoic but couldn't shake off a sense of unease. He had heard whispers about this human, Captain Alicia Blackthorne, a name that had spread through imperial channels like wildfire. She was rumored to be unlike any other human they had encountered before. As he scanned the chamber, his gaze fell upon the grand entrance where Alicia would soon appear. She was said to have infiltrated fortified installations and executed daring rescues against overwhelming odds. Yet here she was, just another fragile creature in a universe dominated by warriors with exoskeletons and cybernetic enhancements. The guards around him chuckled as they prepared for the ceremony. Just look at her, one lieutenant whispered mockingly as he gestured toward an empty space where Alicia would soon stand. What kind of warrior wears nothing but cloth? The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as Thalos adjusted his stance. He had seen many warriors enter this chamber, some victorious, others defeated, but there was something about this moment that felt charged with potential. The moment finally arrived when Captain Alicia stepped through the grand entrance. Thalos's first impression was striking. She was smaller than most warriors present but moved with an unexpected grace that caught his attention. Her combat attire was minimalistic compared to the ornate armor worn by Zenthra's champions, a simple black bodysuit adorned with modest protective gear. Look at that pathetic excuse for armor, Varek scoffed again, prompting laughter from nearby guards. Alicia approached confidently, her expression calm and focused despite being surrounded by towering figures clad in advanced armor. Thalos noted how she carried herself. There was no hint of fear or hesitation in her demeanor. Instead, she seemed to absorb every detail around her, the ornate architecture, the murmurs of disbelief from those who underestimated her. As she halted 20 paces from the Emperor's Sunfire throne, Thalos observed how her gray eyes scanned the room methodically. It reminded him of apex predators assessing their environment before making their move, a predatory instinct he respected despite his own species' superiority complex. The Emperor's herald stepped forward, his crystalline staff striking 3 times against the floor to signal silence among the gathered warriors. We are gathered here today for an ancient ritual challenge, he announced in a voice that resonated through the chamber like thunder. Thalos felt a shiver run down his spine as he watched Alicia's lips curve into what could only be described as a smile, a predator's smile that suggested confidence bordering on arrogance. It unsettled him more than he cared to admit. Today, continued the herald, we witness a challenge between our esteemed champion and this human warrior. His gaze shifted to Champion Xyler, who stood ready at one end of the arena, a towering figure augmented with advanced technology and battle enhancements. Do you understand what you are facing? Xyler boomed as he stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall like rolling thunder. You stand before Zenthra's greatest warrior. I will grant you mercy if you surrender now. Alicia met his gaze without flinching. I'm not here for mercy, she replied coolly. I'm here to show you what humans can do. Laughter erupted from the assembled guards at her boldness, but Thalos felt something shift in the air, a tension that hinted at an unexpected outcome. He had seen many battles fought in this chamber, each one had its own story woven into its fabric. As preparations began for combat, ceremonial incense wafting through the air, the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation. Thalos couldn't shake off his unease, there was something about this human that defied all expectations. Prepare yourself. Harold Kale declared as he initiated formalities for combat. Alicia stood poised at her starting position while Xyler flexed his augmented limbs in preparation for battle. The crowd fell silent once more as they awaited the signal to commence. The Los couldn't help but wonder if they were underestimating their opponent far too much, if beneath that unassuming exterior lay an arsenal of skills that could turn this challenge into something far more significant than mere entertainment. The gong sounded throughout the chamber, an ancient signal marking the beginning of combat, and as it reverberated through their bones, the Los braced himself for what would unfold next in this unexpected confrontation between species. Now I will continue writing Part 2, The Challenge. Part 2, The Challenge. Captain Alicia Blackthorne stood poised in the center of the combat arena, the atmosphere thick with tension and anticipation. The grand hall, lined with towering columns of shimmering crystal, echoed with the whispers and laughter of the assembled Zenthra elite. They were warriors, champions of the Galactic Empire, and they were about to witness a spectacle that would challenge their perceptions of strength and combat. Across from her loomed champion Xyler, a behemoth of a fighter augmented with advanced cybernetic enhancements. His armor glinted under the overhead lights, a testament to his status as one of the Empire's best. Alicia couldn't help but feel the weight of his presence. He was a living weapon, designed for destruction. Yet, she remained unfazed, her heart steady and her mind sharp. "Do you really think you can defeat me with that, toy?" Xyler taunted, his voice booming across the arena. "I'll make this quick." Alicia's lips curled into a slight smile. "I'm not here to play games," she replied coolly. "I'm here to show you what humans are capable of." The crowd erupted in laughter at her boldness, but Alicia felt no fear. Instead, she focused on her breathing, centering herself as she prepared for the challenge ahead. She had trained for this moment. Every grueling hour spent honing her skills was about to be put to the test. The herald stepped forward, his crystalline staff striking the ground 3 times to signal the beginning of formalities. Warriors. Today we witness a challenge unlike any other, a test of strength and skill between our esteemed champion and this human warrior. His voice resonated through the arena, drawing attention from every corner. Alicia took a moment to survey her surroundings. The arena was circular, its surface smooth and polished, reflecting the myriad colors of the crystal walls. She noted every exit, every possible advantage she could use in battle. It was a habit ingrained in her from years of combat training. "Prepare yourselves," the herald declared as he stepped back, clearing the space for combat. Alicia felt adrenaline surge through her veins as she took her stance, legs slightly apart and weight balanced. Xyler wasted no time. With a roar that reverberated through the arena, he lunged forward, his augmented limbs propelling him at incredible speed. Alicia's instincts kicked in. She dropped low and rolled out of his path just as his plasma-infused fist swept through the air where she had been standing moments before. The crowd gasped collectively as Alicia regained her footing. Xyler spun around for another strike, but Alicia was already moving again, her body fluid and agile as she evaded his attacks with surprising grace. "Is that all you've got?" she called out mockingly, dodging another blow that would have sent lesser fighters flying. Xyler's eyes narrowed in frustration. "You're fast for a human," he admitted begrudgingly, but his confidence remained unshaken. "But speed alone won't save you." "Let's find out," Alicia replied defiantly. As they exchanged blows, Alicia began to notice patterns in Xyler's movements. His strikes were powerful but predictable. Each time he swung or kicked, there was a brief moment where he overextended himself. She began to formulate a plan, waiting for the right opportunity to strike back. The crowd cheered wildly as Xyler unleashed a flurry of attacks, each one more aggressive than the last, yet Alicia remained composed. She ducked and weaved through his onslaught, feeling a sense of exhilaration wash over her as she danced around him like a shadow. "Come on. Is that all you've got?" she taunted again, pushing him further into frustration. Xyler roared in anger and charged at her once more. This time, however, Alicia was ready. As he lunged forward with an overhead strike aimed at her head, she dropped low again, but instead of rolling away this time, she pivoted on her heel and swept her leg out in a low kick aimed at his knee joint. The impact caught him off guard. Xyler stumbled slightly but quickly regained his balance. The crowd erupted into cheers and gasps at this unexpected turn of events. "Impressive," he grunted through clenched teeth. "But it won't happen again." Alicia felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her body as she pressed on with renewed determination. She had landed a hit. It was proof that she could hold her own against one of their best fighters. The fight continued with both warriors exchanging blows, Xyler relying on brute strength while Alicia utilized agility and strategy to keep him off balance. She began to see openings in his defenses that others might have missed. Each time he struck hard against the air or ground without connecting with her body left him vulnerable for just an instant longer. As sweat dripped down her brow and fatigue began to set in from the exertion of dodging his relentless attacks, Alicia reminded herself why she was here. Not just for glory but to prove that humans were more than mere fodder for alien warriors. "Your moves are getting slower," Xyler taunted again after landing another close strike that grazed her shoulder. "You can't keep this up forever." Alicia grinned despite herself. He was right about one thing, she couldn't maintain this pace indefinitely. But what he didn't realize was that she had been conserving energy for just such an opportunity. With renewed focus, she began to bait him into overcommitting on his next attack, a feint here, a dodge there, until finally Xyler lunged forward again with a powerful swing aimed directly at her midsection. In that split second when he committed fully to his attack, Alicia executed her plan flawlessly, dropping low once more but this time rolling beneath him entirely while simultaneously sweeping out one leg behind him in an attempt to trip him up. To everyone's shock, including the Los watching from afar, the move worked. Xyler lost his balance completely and crashed onto the arena floor with an earth-shattering thud that sent vibrations rippling through the ground beneath them. Gasps filled the arena as silence descended momentarily before erupting into cheers from some spectators while others looked on in disbelief at what had just transpired. Alicia quickly scrambled back onto her feet while Xyler struggled against gravity to rise once more. It was now or never if she wanted to capitalize on this momentary advantage before he regained composure. With every ounce of strength left within her body fueling determination coursing through veins like fire itself, she charged forward towards him. As she approached closer than ever before, she could see rage burning within those fierce eyes. Alicia feigned left then pivoted right before launching herself into an aerial kick aimed directly at his head. Time seemed to slow down as everything around them faded away, the cheers from spectators drowned out by pounding heartbeats echoing loudly within ears, and then... impact! Her foot connected solidly against Xyler's temple sending shockwaves throughout both their bodies, but it wasn't enough. He staggered back momentarily dazed yet still standing tall despite everything thrown at him thus far. "I will not fall," he roared defiantly shaking off disorientation like water off feathers. Alicia landed gracefully back onto solid ground readying herself for whatever came next, but deep down inside there was something else brewing, a sense of exhilaration mixed with newfound confidence that surged stronger than anything experienced before. "Let's see how long you can keep up," she shouted back at him determinedly. The Los watched intently from afar feeling conflicted emotions swirl within himself, admiration mingled with disbelief as Captain Blackthorn continued holding ground against their champion despite overwhelming odds stacked against her. Could it be possible? Was there truly something extraordinary about this human? As combat resumed once more, the stakes heightened, their battle became less about mere victory or defeat, it transformed into something greater altogether. A clash between worlds where each side fought not just for themselves but also for pride amidst those who dared underestimate them both. Now I will continue writing Part 3, The Fight Begins. Part 3, The Fight Begins. The gong sounded, reverberating through the combat arena like the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. Alicia Blackthorn, known as Captain Ghost, stood poised and ready, her heart racing with adrenaline. Across from her, Champion Xyler surged forward, a living embodiment of Zenthra's might, his cybernetic enhancements glinting under the arena lights. As he charged, Alicia felt the air shift around her, charged with the energy of impending violence. Xylar's massive frame moved with an unnatural speed, propelled by advanced technology that made him a formidable opponent. She had trained for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare her for the raw power of a champion like him. "First blood will be mine," Xylar roared, his voice echoing through the arena as he unleashed a devastating plasma-enhanced punch aimed directly at her head. Alicia dropped low, rolling to the side just in time to avoid the lethal strike. The heat from his fist singed the air above her as she sprang back to her feet. She could hear the crowd gasping in awe and disbelief. They had expected her to falter, yet here she was, dodging their champion's blows with surprising agility. "Is that all you've got?" she taunted, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. She had to remain calm, panic would only lead to mistakes. Xylar snarled in response and launched another attack, a series of rapid punches that came at her like a storm. Alicia danced around him, using every ounce of her training to evade his strikes. She could feel the weight of his presence behind each blow. He was powerful and relentless. With each dodge, Alicia observed his movements carefully. Xylar was strong but predictable. He relied heavily on brute force rather than finesse. As she sidestepped another punch that nearly grazed her cheek, she noticed a pattern. He tended to overcommit on his strikes, leaving himself vulnerable for just a fraction of a second. "Come on. Show me what you've got," Alicia shouted again, pushing him further into frustration. Xylar's eyes narrowed as he shifted tactics. Instead of continuing with wild punches, he began to use his size to his advantage, closing in on her and trying to corner her against the arena walls. Alicia felt a rush of urgency. She needed to create space between them. With a sudden burst of speed, she darted sideways and then leaped onto one of the low walls surrounding the arena. The crowd gasped as she balanced precariously for just a moment before launching herself back into the fray with a spinning kick aimed at Xylar's head. Impressive agility, he grunted as he barely managed to block her kick with his forearm. The impact sent vibrations through both their bodies. Alicia felt it resonate deep within her core. "Let's see how long you can keep this up," she replied breathlessly as she landed back on her feet. The fight continued at a blistering pace. Alicia's movements became more labored as she dodged and countered Xylar's relentless assault. Sweat dripped down her brow, but she pushed through the fatigue. Every second counted in this high-stakes battle. Xylar pressed forward again, launching another series of attacks that forced Alicia to retreat further into the center of the arena. He was relentless. His strikes came faster now, each one more powerful than the last. Alicia could feel herself tiring. Every dodge took its toll on her muscles. "You're slower than I expected," Xylar taunted between breaths, his confidence growing with each passing moment. "Where is that legendary human skill?" Alicia gritted her teeth and focused on maintaining control over her breathing. "I'm just getting started," she shot back defiantly. But deep down, she knew that she was reaching her limits. The difference in their physical capabilities was stark. Xylar's augmented strength allowed him to recover quickly while Alicia felt every bruise and scrape accumulating on her body. As they continued to exchange blows, Alicia noticed something odd about Xylar's movements. His plasma projectors were beginning to overheat slightly, emitting wisps of smoke from his shoulder-mounted devices. A flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps there was an opening after all. "Your augmentations are running hot," Alicia called out between heavy breaths as she dodged another punch aimed at her torso. "You might want to cool them down before they fail you." Xylar's expression shifted momentarily. Was that uncertainty she saw in his eyes? "You think you can intimidate me with words?" he growled defiantly. "No," Alicia replied with a smirk. "I'm just stating facts." With renewed determination, Alicia decided it was time to shift strategies. She needed to exploit Xylar's overconfidence and wear him down further while keeping herself agile enough to evade his attacks. As Xylar lunged again with another overhead strike aimed at her head, Alicia ducked low and rolled beneath him once more. This time, however, instead of retreating further away from him as before, she sprang up quickly behind him and delivered a swift kick to his lower back. The impact sent him stumbling forward, a momentary lapse that opened up an opportunity for Alicia. Seizing the chance, she followed up with a series of quick jabs aimed at his exposed sides where his armor didn't cover completely. The crowd erupted into cheers as they witnessed this unexpected turn of events. Even the Los leaned forward in disbelief from his position near the Emperor's throne. "You're not invincible," Alicia shouted triumphantly as Xyler staggered back from her blows. "Foolish human." Xyler roared angrily as he regained his balance and prepared for another attack. "You will pay for that." But Alicia sensed that she had struck a nerve. There was something different about Xyler now, a flicker of doubt behind those fierce eyes that hadn't been there before. The fight continued fiercely, both warriors exchanged blows at an incredible pace. But now it was clear, Alicia had found a way to penetrate Xyler's defenses by exploiting his overconfidence and fatigue. With each passing moment, Alicia grew bolder, her movements became more fluid as adrenaline coursed through her veins like fire. She could feel victory within reach if only she could maintain this momentum. "Let's finish this," she shouted defiantly as they circled each other once more, their eyes locked in an intense battle of wills amidst cheers echoing throughout the arena. Xyler charged again, but this time something shifted within Alicia. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about proving herself not only against him but against all who dared underestimate humanity. As they clashed once more, their bodies colliding in an explosive display of strength, the true nature of combat revealed itself. It wasn't merely about power or speed, it was about resilience and strategy. And in that moment, amidst chaos and uncertainty, Alicia Blackthorne realized what it meant to be truly alive. Now I will continue writing Part 4, Turning the Tide. Part 4, Turning the Tide. The combat arena was alive with energy, the air thick with tension as Captain Alicia Blackthorne faced off against Champion Xyler. The crowd's cheers and jeers echoed around them, but in that moment, all Alicia could focus on was the formidable opponent before her. Xyler was a force of nature, augmented, powerful, and relentless. Yet beneath his bravado, Alicia sensed a flicker of uncertainty. As the fight progressed, Alicia felt the strain in her muscles from dodging Xyler's powerful strikes. Each blow he threw was a testament to his strength and speed, and she had to dig deep to keep pace. Sweat dripped down her brow as she narrowly avoided another plasma-enhanced punch that could have ended the match in an instant. "Your reputation precedes you, human," Xyler taunted, his voice booming across the arena. "But it seems you're nothing more than a fleeting shadow." "Shadows can be deceptive," Alicia replied, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. She had to keep him talking, keep him distracted. "And shadows can strike when least expected." With that, she executed a quick sidestep as Xyler lunged forward again, his massive frame barreling toward her like a freight train. Alicia ducked low and rolled to the side, feeling the rush of air as his fist sliced through the space where she had just been standing. The crowd erupted into cheers as she sprang back to her feet. Alicia could hear their excitement rising. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a human holding her ground against one of Zenthra's best. But even as she fought back against fatigue, she could feel the toll it was taking on her body. Each dodge became slightly slower, each breath came a little harder. She needed to find a way to turn this fight in her favor. As Xyler pressed his attack, Alicia noticed something peculiar. His plasma projectors were beginning to overheat. Wisps of smoke curled from their vents, and she realized that he was pushing himself too hard. This was her opportunity. "Your augmentations are running hot," Alicia shouted between breaths, hoping to sow doubt in his mind. "You might want to cool them down before they fail you." Xyler snarled in response but faltered for just a moment, a crack in his confidence that Alicia seized upon. She began to adapt her strategy, using her agility not just to evade but also to provoke him into making mistakes. "Come on. "Is that all you've got?" she taunted again, moving with renewed purpose. "I thought champions were supposed to be invincible." With each word, she could see Xyler's frustration mounting. He charged at her again, this time with even more ferocity. But rather than retreating further into defense, Alicia decided to take control of the fight. As he swung at her with a devastating roundhouse kick aimed at her head, Alicia ducked low and rolled under his leg. In one fluid motion, she sprang back up behind him and delivered a swift kick to his knee joint, a calculated strike aimed at destabilizing his balance. The impact sent Xyler stumbling forward, and for the first time since the fight began, he appeared vulnerable. The crowd gasped collectively as Alicia pressed her advantage. "Now we're getting somewhere," she exclaimed as she followed up with a series of quick jabs aimed at his side, strikes that were precise and calculated rather than wild and reckless. Xyler grunted in pain as one of her punches connected solidly against his armored ribs. He retaliated quickly but found himself on the defensive for once. Alicia's movements were fluid and purposeful as she danced around him. "Your skills are impressive," he admitted begrudgingly between breaths. "But you're still outmatched." Alicia smirked as she continued to evade his strikes while maintaining pressure on him with quick counters. "Maybe so," she replied breathlessly, "but I'm not done yet." The tide of battle had shifted, where once Xyler had dominated with brute force alone, now he was forced to react to Alicia's speed and strategy. She could see it in his eyes, his confidence was waning as he struggled to keep up with her relentless assault. "Let's see how long you can last." Alicia shouted defiantly as she launched herself into an aerial kick aimed directly at Xyler's head once more. This time he anticipated her move. He ducked just in time to avoid the kick but left himself open for another counterattack from Alicia's left side. She seized the opportunity and delivered a sharp elbow strike directly into his ribs. The impact sent shockwaves through both their bodies. Xyler staggered back again, this time visibly shaken by the force of her blow. "You're not invincible." Alicia shouted triumphantly as cheers erupted from the crowd around them, an electric atmosphere that fueled her determination further. Xyler glared at her through narrowed eyes but couldn't hide the flicker of doubt now evident in his expression. The crowd had begun to shift. They were no longer just spectators, they were witnesses to an unexpected spectacle unfolding before them. Alicia took a moment to catch her breath while keeping an eye on Xyler's movements. She knew better than to underestimate him completely despite having gained an upper hand momentarily. "You think you've won?" he growled defiantly as he regained composure, his augmented muscles flexing with renewed vigor despite visible signs of fatigue creeping into his stance. "No," she replied calmly, "but I've proven that I can stand my ground." With that declaration echoing through the arena like thunder, Alicia prepared herself for whatever came next, her heart pounding with anticipation as both warriors resumed their deadly dance within this sacred circle. Xyler lunged forward again, but this time there was something different about it. He wasn't just attacking blindly anymore, he was calculating each move while trying desperately not to let frustration get the better of him. Alicia felt invigorated by this shift. The fight had become more than mere survival, it had transformed into a battle of wits where every exchange mattered. As they clashed once more, their bodies colliding in an explosive display of strength, it became clear that neither would yield easily. Both were determined warriors fighting not just for victory but also for pride against those who dared underestimate their capabilities. And within that chaos, the true nature of combat revealed itself. It wasn't merely about power or speed, it was about resilience and strategy. With every blow exchanged, the stakes heightened, their battle became less about winning or losing, it transformed into something greater altogether. A clash between worlds where each side fought fiercely against those who doubted them both. Alicia felt alive in ways she hadn't imagined possible before stepping foot into this arena, a sense of purpose ignited within her soul urging forth determination beyond anything experienced thus far. As they circled each other once more, their eyes locked in an intense battle of wills amidst cheers echoing throughout, the realization dawned upon everyone present. This human warrior was not just fighting for herself but also for all those who had been underestimated throughout history. Now I will continue writing part 5, The Unexpected Victory.